Good morning. This is Glenn Greenidge and Tom Pope. And today we are going to be talking about the mass shootings and how we can combat that, how we can, what are some of the things that we as a community should be looking at. So, Tom, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think no one is talking about why are we having so many mass shootings. Watch any news broadcast, you will be hit with stories about many things, not why. I see the why coming from four different directions.
Okay.
We have a lot of frustration and anger through the country because of a loss of respect of institutions coming from four different places. Number one, we've lost respect of corporations because corporations are virtually robbing money from people. Number two, corporations don't face the same justice system that the average person faces.
That is true.
Number three, COVID has stopped our ability of socialization, travel, where we can see other Americans. And fourth, we have a climate of hatred set up by one of our political parties that divides Americans almost as badly as we saw in Rwanda, that forced people to hate each other and kill each other. Those four areas, I think, contribute to why we're seeing so many mass shootings.
I absolutely agree with you, Tom, that those four areas are critical. The other area that I would add to that is um, the sale of these combat weapons, these automatic rifles that have magazines that can shoot 300 bullets in a minute or whatever it is. Um, that's not for hunting. That's not a hunting rifle. That's an assault rifle for battle on the field. And so you've now given access to people to have these militaristic um, guns that are only for, you know, defending yourself in lines of combat, which are now, of course, being used for innocent soft targets with people who can't defend themselves.
I think that's true. However, I think if we did everything we could, but we don't address the four areas I'm talking about,
Oh,
we're still going to have a lot of trouble.
yes, yes, I agree with you.
Uh, for example, I said that I thought we have a climate where the corporations are robbing people. The average worker is more productive than ever, but they're not seeing it. Now, we have a chart from the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. In 1980, the top 1% and the bottom 20% were all at the same level of percent of income. Now, by year 2000, the bottom 20% had risen, maybe 79%, but the top 1% rose 226%. All of this has been happening as income is shifting. That average wage in 1980 doesn't go the same distance. So
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. And you're right. Um, you had jobs back in the 80s that could pay, were livable wages that could sustain a family of four. Now, um, those same jobs, you need two people working, and you're barely covering the cost of day-to-day um, living, you groceries, rent, what have you.
speaking of corporations, um, we don't have the same justice system. If someone like a Tyrone steals a loaf of bread, Tyrone might be in jail because he can't afford bail, maybe goes to Rikers, maybe develops an illness that is not treated and dies at Rikers. Still hasn't been tried. However, Exxon could lose a case dealing with the killing of innocent workers because of their pollution. And what is the answer for Exxon? They're able to hire an independent lawyer to prosecute the lawyer that won the case against them.
Pretty much.
This is ridiculous. This leads to that frustration.
Well, you're right. There are two justice systems. One for the rich and one for the not so rich. And you know, you're you're in jail in Rikers for you know 5 or 6 months waiting for trial, and you're subjected to a lot of harsh living conditions that you wouldn't want to allow your worst enemy to have. So yeah, definitely the conditions, the workability. Um, there are a lot of things that are pent up. You talked about the COVID and the lack of socialization. You know, it's scary, but I've had conversations with people who are had an opportunity to go out and be away from the abusive mate that they had at home, and now are forced to be in these close quarters. And of course, so there's more violence, there's more abuse, there's more uh, violence that is that naturally had an outlet of being able to go out and socialize and maybe even sports or whatever to get those aggressions out that haven't been able to be done. Go out to the local bar and have a relaxing drink with some of your pals, um, and talk about the problems that you've been having. When those things aren't available, you get an inward pent up anger and frustration. So all of these things are contributing to frustration. You've got the people who are dying around you unexpectedly that because of COVID, older folks and family members that you live in your community, in a community that are, you know, not able to survive. So all of these things are mushrooming.
And along with that, we have the general media that doesn't even address the question of why. And as it's doing this, it is dividing people and forcing this era of hate, one group against another, so that one group starts to blame the other for a loss of a job or loss of an income, instead of looking at why is this happening? Maybe it's the corporation that's stealing the income.
Yeah, Tom. There are so many things at at risk here at play that are impacting the quality of life, quality of people's lives, and of course, um, as we've talked about in our previous series, just adding police doesn't doesn't add anything to the reduction of those kind of symptoms and those kind of crimes.
It might even heighten it.
Absolutely, it does heighten it because you're already in the aggravated state of mind, and then you've got somebody who's seemingly supposedly working for you, but not necessarily always the case when you come to some of the neighborhood policing that is occurring. So,
Um,
any last thoughts, Tom?
we need a comprehensive way of dealing with this, and maybe we should think of that for another show.
I agree. I agree. Well, thank you all. Tom,
Let us know what you think. Get in touch with us on community and social change. Check us out on Facebook.
all right. Thank you.